Hey, it's Terry Gorry, and this is the Irish Law and Small Business Podcast. Let's talk about house prices today. There is a report just published, just landed from the ESRI. The ESRI is the Economic and Social Research Institute of Ireland. It's an institute that provides a sort of a think tank service for the government and for the rest of us, I suppose, as well, because we can all access the reports when they publish them. Their latest report, and today is the 5th or 6th of October 2022, it's the 6th of October. Their latest report from the ESRI says that house prices are overvalued by 7%. What I find surprising about this, however, is that it goes on to say that it's too early to say whether prices will fall or correct or not. That's the first thing. Ordinarily, you'd imagine that in a market where people are persuaded that prices are too high, that houses are overvalued, that they will naturally pull back, offer less, and basically correct house prices, and prices will either fall, will fall back to the level that the ESRI are suggesting. That's the first thing. Secondly, and the second surprising part of the report that I find anyway is, or a part of the report that I'd be interested in, is how do they value a house? How do they arrive at the figure of 7%? Basically, they take into account a number of factors, including demographic factors such as income, population, credit availability, and interest rates. This is how they value a house, and they value it based on what they would have expected, based on those demographic factors, a house to be worth now. And they say basically the house now is worth 7% more, or is making 7% more than they would have expected. However, anybody who has been involved in the property market for a number of years would ordinarily accept that the value of a house is what somebody in an open, free market is prepared to pay. So leaving aside the cost of building, leaving aside demographic factors, etc., then a house, the price of a house, or the value of a house rather, or any property, is worth what a willing buyer is prepared to sell in a market that's not fixed. The interesting thing, though, is that they, as I say, make these calculations based on demographic factors. Just in relation to demographic factors, I can remember when the market crashed back in 2008 or thereabouts. And at the time, the economists were looking at demographic factors then too, because that's what economists do. And they took the view that we were in for a soft landing. But not only were we not in for a soft landing, but we were in for a mighty crash. And many of the economists that were around then are still around today. So you can make up your own mind, you can weigh up all of the factors and all of the opinions from economists, but they are not always right. In fact, you can make your own mind up as to how often or how accurate they are. But there are two important things that I think are two surprising things that the ESRI report have indicated, and don't make life any easier for you if you're thinking about buying a property. Because if you're told that the value of a house is overvalued by 7%, but that prices may not fall, well then you might say to yourself, I need a house, I need shelter, I have a growing family, I've got a new job, I'm in a good position to borrow, etc., etc. The second factor that I find surprising is how they arrive at the value of a house. But the willing market or the open market and the willing buyer, etc., will generally determine that. I do accept that demographic factors will determine to a great extent what a willing buyer is prepared to pay in an open and unfixed market. However, one of the bigger factors in terms of determining what somebody may be prepared to pay would be interest rates. And interest rates are on the rise at the moment, and there's some quite significant rises in the pipeline. Having said that, interest rates have been very, very low for the last number of years. So I can remember borrowing money at 20% back in 1986, 87, and now interest rates are nowhere near that. They're only a fraction of that. So even though interest rates are on the rise, they're not nearly as bad as they were at one stage in the Irish economy. Having said that, at 1% or at 2% in. So if you're on the fence about buying a property, then obviously you would need to take into account the ESRI report and reports from other economists and experts in the area. But you're also going to have to factor in that economists have issued reports before that have been accurate and inaccurate. They've made predictions before that have been come to be true and have been wildly wrong, wildly inaccurate. So you, in an individual capacity, you're going to have to decide whether, for your particular circumstances, your family circumstances, the point at which you're in your career and so on, whether you want to continue paying rent versus buying a property. They're factors that you're going to have to figure in to the equation as to whether you buy or not. And the other thing that you might consider is whether you believe that investing in property, investing in bricks and mortar is something that might prove to be a good investment, a sound investment over the period of 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. And obviously you're going to have to look at the fundamental situation, the fundamental question of whether you should be paying rent or paying a mortgage. And then obviously you have to factor in interest rates and so on. So ESRI reports, economic reports, etc., are valuable, but they're only valuable insofar as they help you make an informed decision. Your own particular circumstances, your career path, your stage in life, your age and so on, your growing family perhaps, they're factors that will have to be factored in as well and will have to be seriously considered. So that's where we're at in terms of house prices. It's up to yourself, it's up to each individual as to whether they place a huge amount of store on this or not, on this ESRI report. And obviously your own decision is going to be your own decision and will be determined by your own factors. There may well be comments from people on this video that solicitors have a vested interest in the market, etc., and that my opinion is whatever. I'm not really voicing an opinion here. All I'm doing is looking at the factors that you will probably weigh up when you're deciding to buy or not. I'm looking at the factors that feed into house prices. I'm looking at what the ESRI has to say. And quite frankly, a solicitor, whether house prices are rising or falling, gets paid per transaction. So from a legal perspective, from a commercial perspective, it really doesn't make a whole pile of difference to us whether prices are rising or not, because as I say, we get paid for doing the conveyance, and whether you're buying or whether you're selling, we get paid for doing the professional service. There is people out there who have a particular axe to grind, a particular clanking chain to drag around behind them, a grievance about particular professions and so on and so forth. But what I would encourage those people to do is not to let those prejudices, not to let those grievances fetter their discretion and cloud their judgment. Hope you find this video useful. If you do, I would appreciate if you gave it the thumbs up down below, and you may be interested in subscribing to my YouTube channel. I make videos about Irish law, property, business, entrepreneurship, and the occasional vlog and the occasional video about political matters as well. Thanks a lot.